I never thought I'd be the kind of person to share something like this publicly, but what happened to me changed the way I look at family, trust, and the line between right and wrong. It started like any ordinary weekend. My dad had gone out of town on a last-minute work trip, nothing new there. He travels often, and my stepmom usually stays behind. We've never been particularly close, but we got along fine. She was always polite, sometimes distant, but never made me feel unwelcome. That weekend, though, something shifted. Something I never saw coming. She had been acting a little off that whole day, more talkative than usual, asking about my life, my relationships, school. It was almost like she was trying too hard to connect. I chalked it up to boredom or maybe just loneliness with my dad away. But the more we talked, the more I noticed a kind of intensity in her eyes, like she had something on her mind. At first, I brushed it off. I mean, why would I think twice? She's my stepmom. Later that evening, we were sitting in the living room, watching some movie neither of us really cared about. I could feel the weird tension in the room, like something unspoken was just hanging in the air. And then, out of nowhere, she turned to me and asked something I never expected to hear from her. Not just surprising, something that completely flipped everything I thought I understood about our family. I didn't know how to respond. My brain was scrambling, trying to make sense of her words. Was it a joke? A test? Or was she actually serious? The look in her eyes told me she meant every word. I froze. My heart was pounding. All I could think about was my dad, how he trusted both of us. How he had no idea what was happening while he was away. I felt like I was being pulled into something dangerous, something that could tear everything apart. But the worst part? A part of me didn't walk away. Not right away. That moment haunts me. Growing up, I always thought I had a decent moral compass. I believed in boundaries, in doing the right thing even when it's hard. But in real life, when things get messy and unexpected, it's not always so black and white. This wasn't just about one decision, it was about the ripple effect it could have on everything and everyone I cared about. What made it even more complicated was how she justified it. She told me things about her relationship with my dad that I never knew. Things I wish I could unhear. The more she talked, the more I realized how broken things really were behind closed doors. But did that make any of this okay? Was it even my place to be involved? I know some people will judge me for what I'm about to share. Maybe you already are. But this story isn't about looking for sympathy or excuses. It's about how quickly life can throw you into a situation where there's no easy way out. Where even silence feels like betrayal. I wish I could say I walked away right then. I wish I could say I did the right thing without hesitation. But the truth is a little more complicated. Because after she asked me that question, I didn't say no. Not immediately. That night was just the beginning. And what happened after, well, let's just say it didn't end there. If you've ever been caught between loyalty and temptation, between silence and truth, then maybe you'll understand. Or maybe you won't. Either way, this is what really happened. And it all started with 5 simple words from someone I thought I could trust. Can I ask you something? That's when everything changed. I looked at her, unsure if I heard her right. The room felt quieter than before, even though the TV was still playing in the background. My stepmom, someone I'd lived with for the past few years, someone who was supposed to be a steady part of our family, was now staring at me with this strange mixture of nerves and certainty. Can I ask you something? She repeated, softer this time, like she wasn't even sure if she should. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak yet. She paused, eyes scanning mine, then looked away like she couldn't quite say it to my face. Do you ever feel like you're living in someone else's life? Like, you're just playing a role you didn't sign up for? That caught me off guard. It wasn't what I expected. I thought maybe she was about to confront me about something I did, or ask for help with some house issue or favor. But this? This was something else. Before I could say anything, she kept going. She talked about my dad, how distant he'd become lately. How he was always busy, distracted, barely talked to her unless it was about bills or plans. She said she felt invisible. I didn't know what to say. I mean, sure, my dad wasn't the most emotionally open person, but I had no idea she felt so alone in the marriage. And as she spoke, I realized how much she had been holding in. She shifted on the couch, leaning forward with her elbows on her knees, like she was finally letting herself be real after pretending for so long. I don't even recognize us anymore, she whispered. It's like we're roommates, not partners. I could see the emotion in her eyes, hurt, anger, confusion. And even though I didn't want to get involved, it was hard not to feel something. I asked her if they'd talked about any of this, if they'd tried to fix it. She just gave a sad smile. You think I haven't tried, she said. Every time I bring it up, he shuts down. Changes the subject. Leaves the room. It's like he's not even there anymore. It was strange hearing all this from her. She'd always seemed so composed, quiet, but never fragile. But that night, the mask was off. I was seeing a side of her I'd never seen before. And as much as I tried to stay neutral, a part of me started to wonder if maybe she wasn't exaggerating. Maybe she really was just tired of being ignored. But then she said something that changed everything. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Sometimes, I think the only reason I stay is because of you." I froze. The words echoed in my head, and suddenly the air in the room felt heavier. What did she mean by that? Was it just a compliment, some emotional thing she was trying to share? Or was there something else underneath? I didn't know what to think anymore. I told myself to just stand up, leave the room, go to bed, forget this conversation ever happened. But I didn't move. I just sat there, stuck between trying to be polite and needing answers I didn't even know how to ask. The thing is, she never outright said what she wanted. Not directly. But everything about her tone, her body language, the way she looked at me, it all hinted at something more. Something unspoken. And that's what made it even more unsettling. Because whatever was happening here, it wasn't just about her marriage anymore. Somehow, I was being pulled into it. And deep down, I think she knew exactly what she was doing. That night, after she went to bed, I couldn't sleep. I just lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything she said. Her voice kept echoing in my mind, especially that one line, "Sometimes, I think the only reason I stay is because of you." What was I supposed to do with that? It felt like she was asking for something, without actually saying it out loud. Like she was testing me. Trying to see how far she could go before I pushed back. Over the next few days, things got even more confusing. My dad was still out of town, and every day felt like walking on a tightrope. She started acting differently, more casual, more familiar. She'd knock on my door late at night just to talk. She started sharing even more personal stuff, not just about my dad, but about her past. Things I never asked to hear. Stuff about how she was always the one left behind, how she never felt seen or chosen. It got to a point where I didn't know what was real anymore. Was she just lonely and looking for someone to talk to? Or was there something deeper behind all this attention? And then there was the guilt. The guilt of even questioning her motives. I didn't want to assume the worst about someone who had been a part of my life for years. But there was this constant feeling in my gut that something wasn't right. At the same time, I started noticing little things that made me question everything. Like how she'd pause when we were alone, holding eye contact just a little too long. Or how she'd casually touch my arm during conversations, in a way she never used to before. It wasn't just in my head, there was a shift. And it wasn't subtle. Meanwhile, a part of me started wondering how much my dad actually knew. He always seemed distracted lately, buried in work calls or half-hearted conversations at dinner. Did he notice the way she looked at me? Did he sense any of this tension? Or had he checked out so completely that nothing would surprise him anymore? Then there was my best friend, Jordan. I hadn't told him anything, but he started picking up on something. One afternoon he said, "You've been off lately, man. Like your head's somewhere else." I wanted to tell him the truth, or at least part of it. But how do you even begin to explain something like this without sounding crazy, or worse, like you're making it up? I didn't know who to talk to, or how to get out of the situation without making it worse. All I knew was that the lines were getting blurrier each day. And whatever game my stepmom was playing, I was already in it, whether I liked it or not. The tension in the house was getting harder to ignore. Every conversation felt loaded, every glance had a double meaning. My stepmom had started finding reasons for us to be alone more often, offering to drive me places even when I didn't need a ride, asking for help with simple things around the house, like fixing the sink or moving boxes. It all seemed normal on the surface, but there was something underneath it. A vibe I couldn't shake. One night, about a week after that strange conversation, she came into my room without knocking. She said she couldn't sleep and asked if I wanted to sit outside with her for a bit. It was almost midnight, and the house was quiet except for the low hum of the fridge and the creaking floorboards beneath our feet. I should have said no. I knew better. But I didn't. Maybe part of me just wanted answers. Maybe part of me didn't want to be the one to walk away first. We sat on the back porch in silence for a while. The air was heavy, like it knew something was about to happen. She talked softly about how different things used to be, how she used to laugh more, feel more, live more. Then she turned to me and said, "I know this isn't fair to you, but I don't know who else to be real with anymore." That sentence hit me hard. She wasn't just talking to me, she was opening something up, something she'd been holding in, and she was pulling me into it with her. She reached for my hand. I felt it, her fingers brushing mine. Not in a casual way. Not in a motherly way. And for a second, I didn't move. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear her next words. "Do you ever think about how different things would be if we had met in another life?" That question, simple but dangerous, hung in the air like a match ready to drop. I pulled my hand back, finally. But the damage was already done. Something had been crossed. And just then, we heard the sound of the front door unlocking. My dad was home. Early. The sound of the front door unlocking sent a jolt through both of us. She jumped up like someone had just caught her red-handed, and I stood there frozen, my mind racing. My dad wasn't supposed to be back for another 2 days. We hadn't heard a car, no warning. Just the quiet click of a key turning in the lock, like fate had decided to show up uninvited. We hurried inside, pretending like nothing had happened. She grabbed a glass of water from the kitchen, and I went straight to the living room, trying to look as casual as possible. My dad walked in a moment later, suitcase in hand, looking tired but alert. He gave us both a nod, then set his bag down and said, "Flight got cancelled tomorrow." I caught an earlier one. There was something off in his tone. Not angry. Just observant. Like he was trying to read the room. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. As he sat down, he pulled out his phone, opened something up, and handed it to me. "You left your location on," he said flatly. I glanced down and saw a map with timestamps. My stomach dropped. He'd seen where I'd been, how often I was at the house even when I told him I'd be out. He might not have known exactly what was going on, but he knew something wasn't right. Then he looked at her, and without raising his voice, he said, "How long has this been going on?" She didn't answer right away. Just stared at him, caught between panic and pride. And I stood there, stuck in the middle of two people who were supposed to be family. Two people who now looked like strangers. That's when I realized this wasn't just about her and me. My dad had suspected something. Maybe for longer than we thought. And now everything was unraveling, fast. She didn't speak at first. The silence stretched so long that it felt like the whole house had stopped breathing. Finally, she said, "Nothing happened. You're overthinking it." Her voice was calm, but her eyes were shaky. My dad didn't even look at her. He looked at me. "Is that true?" he asked. That moment felt like everything stopped. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. I wanted to lie. I wanted to say yes and make it all go away. But I couldn't. I said, quietly, "I don't know what it was, but it wasn't nothing." My dad didn't yell. He didn't storm out. He just nodded slowly, like he'd already known the answer and was waiting to hear it out loud. Then he turned to her and said, "I was going to leave you. I just hadn't told you yet." That hit harder than anything else. She blinked, confused. "What are you talking about?" "I've known for months. About the messages. About how distant you've been. I just never thought it would be with him." The room went completely still. She opened her mouth like she was going to defend herself, but no words came. My dad stood up, picked up his suitcase, and said, "You two can figure out how to explain this to yourselves. I'm done." He walked out the door without slamming it, without looking back. And just when I thought it couldn't get worse, my phone buzzed. A message from Jordan. "Dude. I need to talk to you. It's about your stepmom." I stared at the screen, cold spreading through my chest. Because whatever I thought I knew, it wasn't the whole story. Not even close. I called Jordan right away. My hands were shaking, still trying to process everything that had just happened. When he answered, he didn't waste time. "She messaged me, bro. A while ago." I didn't want to say anything, thought it was some weird misunderstanding. "But now I think you need to know." She said things, hinted like she was into me. I blocked her after the second message. That was the final piece of the puzzle. It wasn't just me. She had been testing boundaries for a while, pushing lines with anyone who got close enough. It wasn't about love or connection. It was about control, attention, filling whatever void she had been hiding from. In the days that followed, the house felt like a ghost town. My dad didn't come back. He texted me to say he was staying at a friend's and needed space. My stepmom kept to herself, barely speaking. The air between us was thick with everything we didn't say. Eventually, she packed a few bags and left. No long conversation, no dramatic goodbye. Just silence. Looking back, I realize how easily blurred lines can destroy trust. One wrong look, one unanswered question, one moment of weakness, and the whole foundation cracks. Families are built on boundaries. And once those get crossed, nothing feels solid anymore. It took time, but things eventually settled. My dad and I are still working through it, slowly. I don't hate her. I just finally see her clearly now. The truth? This wasn't just a story about infidelity. It was about choices, and what happens when people avoid the hard conversations. Some things can't be undone, but they can be understood. And that's where healing begins.